everyone, and welcome to our second episode of CU Faith Fridays. Today we have senior Brooke McPherson with us. She's here to talk a little bit about her faith, her own faith journey, and plans that she has for after Caldwell. So, Brooke, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, excellent. So, let's get started with our first question. Just to learn a little bit about you, can you share with us why you came to Caldwell in the first place?
Sure, yeah, I came to Caldwell. Being honest, it was the first school I looked at. I did instant decision day. I immediately committed to Caldwell and didn't apply anywhere else. So I took a tour with my mom one day, and there was almost like no one on campus either. And I don't know, I just really felt like I could see myself really getting in, like, and feeling comfortable there. Like, I felt like it was a place that I was ready to kind of grow in myself, but also it just kind of seemed like a lot of possibilities were there. So I was just drawn to it. I liked the vibe, and then I just went with it. I didn't think too much about it.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great. And so, kind of looking at the reasons that you came to Caldwell in the first place, and what are some of the things that you have gotten involved in or experienced on campus that you feel like have really matched up with why you came there in the first place?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to go to a Catholic university. I went to a Catholic high school, and I really loved doing service, and I just liked having like a Catholic presence on campus. So when I came here, I met you, my like January of my freshman year. So I immediately got involved in just every form of campus ministry, just doing whether it was service-based opportunities or more faith-based stuff. I was all over it. But then besides campus ministry, I'm a student ambassador, and I also worked for admissions doing social media.
Great, awesome. Yeah, I still remember our first trip to Kentucky, that spring break. There were what? There were three students and two staff, and we just piled in a car and hoped for the best, I guess.
The minivan of dreams.
Yes, yes. Excellent. So, you kind of talked a little bit about what you've done in campus ministry. What are ways that you feel like you've been able to practice your faith on campus? And what are some of your favorite ways to practice your faith?
I think something that kind of is, as a freshman, I went to like mass in the community a little bit, but I was a little timid getting into that. I was always more drawn to service over the traditional religion part of, ministry in general. But as a freshman going into the summer, I went to the preaching conference. We went, and that we basically were taught everything about the Dominican tradition, and I think that really made it more tangible for me. And they're the order of preachers, and they're trying to live out their faith in a more modern way, and that kind of really resonated with me. So I kind of think I live out my faith on campus, both by, I participate in mass, I read at mass, but I also try to like preach with my life. So whether that's through service or rather just having a conversation with people, I just try to always keep that in the back of my mind, like to have kind of like a little bit of a godly presence whenever I encounter people.
That's awesome. Um, yeah, how very Dominican of you.
Right?
That's great. And I think that can be really, your words can be really inspiring for students who maybe have only felt the way they can connect with God is just through service. But I think there's a lot of different ways and opportunities on campus if we allow ourselves to be open to that. And it's neat to hear that over your 4 years at Caldwell, you really fully embrace that and fully embrace that Dominican tradition and what that can mean for the ways that we kind of practice our faith and use our whole life to kind of preach about
Yeah.
God. So that's great. So you're a senior, so you'll be graduating. Uh, yep. Whatever that means in this pandemic, right? But you do have something lined up for next year,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, I
Yeah. So,
do.
so let's talk a little bit about that. Do you want to kind of introduce us to what's going on? What do you have lined up?
Yeah, yeah. So I think when you graduate, you have a couple options. You can either go back to school, you can go to work, or you can do something else. And I chose to do something else. So I'm doing a year of service, which maybe not everyone's familiar with what that is, but basically it's a post grad, but you don't have to necessarily go to college to participate. But it's young adults that basically work full time in different positions in different ministries, but they don't receive salary. So they're volunteering full time. They live in community. Some years of services are faith based, but not all of them are. And kind of every community is different. It depends really what organization it is. So you'll be living in community with like maybe 3 or 4 or 10, however many adults. And one might be working in a soup kitchen as like an assistant director. Someone might be teaching in a school. I'm doing something called indirect service, which I'm not going to be working, with people on the streets, but what I'll be doing is working in more of an advocacy position. So I'll be working in New York City, and I'll be basically working with local and state level agencies that kind of the whole gist of it is we're trying to do like trauma informed policies that help people in poverty in New York City, mostly youth and families.
Awesome. That's great. Do you want to share the name of your
Oh yeah,
program
I
you're going
forgot
to go
that.
with?
I just forgot that. Good Shepherds. So
Great, great. So Good Shepherd Volunteers,
yeah.
and that's just as Brooke said, one of many organizations that do post grad service opportunities or service opportunities for young adults where you live in community, share life, share food, share everything together. And that sounds like really great experience that you'll be getting in your work site. And um, where do you hope to kind of take that afterwards? Do you have any thoughts about that?
That's a great question. I am probably looking into doing grad school after that. I have no idea what happens. You never know who you're going to meet with doors open. Someone could offer me a job, whatever. I either want to do. I'm kind of between like 3 master's programs. I'm between getting my MBA, and I would want to do nonprofit business with that. Um, Between getting that, my law degree, which I wouldn't be doing like normal like private practice. I would want to be doing more advocacy or a master's in public policy. So
Great.
no matter what, I want to be like in the nonprofit sphere.
That's awesome. Do you feel like your relationship with God or your time at Caldwell in the ways that you've grown have anything to do with that career path?
Yeah, 100%. I When I was coming in, I'm a computer science major, which doesn't always directly translate to ministry and serving others. But I learned so much in the classroom, but I feel like I learned equal, if not more, outside of the classroom with the different experiences I've done. So I remember we just went to a Jesuit conference in DC this coming, like, what was that, October? November, whatever. But I went to like a panel there, and it was a group of people talking about ethical investing and how you can, how they can work with the prison system to make it more ethical and things like that. So I think I've really been open. I think before I came to college, my thought of ministry work in general, missionary work, anything like that was like pretty intense. You have to be in really low income areas, maybe third world countries. And that didn't always align with my real job prospects. But I've kind of learned that there's a lot of different ways that you can make a positive impact in our world and society. So that's what I got.
Well said. Well said. Um, so let's talk a little bit about kind of what's going on in our world right now. Coronavirus, COVID-19, the pandemic, however you want to call it. How's being quarantined for you? What's that been like?
It is. I am very thankful it's all right with us. I'm at home with my parents. My siblings are adults and don't live with us. So I'm kind of just chilling, only child with the dog right now. I'm very grateful that I'm very good friends with both of my parents. So we're actually really enjoying this. Well, not enjoying, but we're trying to make the most of it. I think as I got older, I was coming home less and less. So this was almost like a nice forced, like, let's spend time with each other before I go do the whole adult thing.
Mhm.
But still like low. I mean, it's an anxious time. It's nervous, but
Mhm.
I feel good in my individual house.
Okay, that's good. And I'm sure I could probably say that your parents probably really appreciate this time with you, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so what role would you say your faith has played in your life during this time?
Oh, it's like uh just helping so much. I am a very number based person. I'm very pragmatic and things like this. You know, there's data and there's projections, but they're all projections and they're predictions and they're not necessarily going to happen. We hope the curve is flattened, but that's not a guarantee. So I think I've been really struggling with that unknown factor, and that's really
Mm,
where my prayer life is helping out a lot with that, because I've always struggled, particularly with just really like letting go and letting God take control of things. So I think this has been really a test of that. And I've been really pushing myself, which is I'm trusting my health, my family members' health, my loved ones. I'm just trusting that He's going to make it, whether we're living the same lives in a year, probably not, but I'm praying that we will be okay.
mhm. Yeah. You mentioned some of the challenges. Are there any challenges that you feel like you've encountered in your faith during this time?
I have one I feel guilty about. I have not been tuning in to mass. Um, I feel really bad about it. um, my sleep schedule is super chaotic. And also, like, again, I was talking about the anxiety thing, right? Like, I'm kind of like almost scared of it on some level, because I think when I do tune into mass online, it just really solidifies how different this is
Mm,
and just how we're in such uncertain times, and there's never been anything like this before. And I think it just kind of like spooks me out a little bit. Like, I think I can kind of just pretend it's a rainy Saturday and there's nothing going on, but when I go to online classes or go to church online, it really does, like, nope, this is not normal. We're in a pandemic and people are dying, and it's just kind of freaks me out a little bit. So that's been my real struggle is, you got to go to mass even though we're not going to mass.
yeah, yeah, I think that that's really true, and I would guess probably a lot of people feel that way. And so that's that's a really good point that, we could just live our lives and oh, we're home, okay, it's just we're stuck at home. But then when it comes to those things that you would normally be out and about or somewhere else for, it makes it really real that
Yeah.
life is so different right now. So, um when it comes to prayer, would you say that, or I guess what would you say are things that you try to do at home when it comes to prayer? So how do you pray at home?
I pray every night before I go to bed. I like I never grew up saying the rosary, so I kind of have my own little like routine of what I pray about and who I pray for. So I've been doing that. I've kind of like doubled down on that and upped it up, being like, so I used to do like maybe just like 5 minutes. Now I'm doing 10 to 15, really,
Mm.
just because I think there's just so many people in need that it's just once you start being like, oh, pray for the first responders, oh, and the janitors, oh, and just it keeps going. So I find myself at the end of the night just doing those like caps, being like, and everyone else,
Every other name that I have forgotten to
just
say.
everyone, just everyone, pray for everyone.
Yes. Yep. Yep. That's good. That's good. So, probably not the happiest thing to talk about, but let's talk about you being a senior.
Aw.
Um, Going through this, what's it been like? Because I think there's a lot of other seniors that will hopefully tune into this and kind of hear a little bit. What's that been like being a senior? And
It has its highs and lows. Definitely getting those initial emails. Our school wasn't the fastest of getting information out, so I was kind of looking at what the other colleges in the areas were doing. I'm really grateful for Caldwell because they're doing what they can to celebrate the senior class. They're like, Dr. Blotner saying she's committed to us having a graduation, even if that's in October. And that's really, people laugh and that might be inconvenient. People might have relocated for jobs, but that's a really big effort being made that many other schools aren't making. A lot of schools, and not because they don't care, it's just it's not a practicality. Like we have our graduation on our own campus, so we have way more control over when the ceremony is. So, the fact that they're trying to make it happen, I really appreciate. But it is definitely it's really sad on some level because the last 6 weeks of your senior year are like supposed to be the most fun point of college, and definitely feel a little robbed of that. I'm really grateful. Me and my friends had this past senior year, we kind of all committed to each other more, and we're like, we're just going to spend more time together, less drama. So we got a house in the Poconos, and we cooked the entire weekend, and it was fantastic. So while I feel sad for what we're like missing that we were going to have, I feel very content with what we got done. And I know those relationships aren't going to vanish just because we didn't get to graduate on time or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep. And hopefully your faith and all that you guys, all the relationship strength that you have built over the last 4 years, however many years, um, has come in handy, now being a little bit at a distance and winding down your college career, but in such a different way than anybody ever planned
Yeah.
for their lives. So I can I can imagine that that's really hard. And yeah, I think we all have that longing for what was and what we feel like really should be right now,
Yeah.
but this is what we're faced with. And so yeah, how would you say, kind of in the mix of that sadness and these change of plans, any role that you feel like your faith or your relationship with God has played a part of that?
I think I spent a lot of my time like in my prayer life, not really expressing enough gratitude, but more the like, please don't let this happen, please let this be okay. And kind of reflecting on, we don't get to graduate, we don't get the senior week stuff. I've kind of spent a lot more time just being like, okay, well, I didn't get all of that, but I did get a sure lot, and I'm really grateful for that. So I think just I've been kind of meditating on that a little bit more and kind of just spending more time in gratitude is
That's
definitely.
great. That's great. That's great. Well, just to wrap it up, is there anything else that you want to share with us or any parting words you want to say to the viewers?
Just keep social distancing. I want to go outside.
Thank you. Yes, the more we social distance,
It's like,
hopefully the sooner we can all get back to some sort of normalcy. So,
yeah, just
excellent.
listen to the governor.
Excellent. Well, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today, and hopefully, something Brooke shared touched you a little bit or inspired you in some way. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to future episodes of CU Faith Fridays. Thank you.